Well, you started having sex with Jane Doe, and then Diddy actually joined in the first time?
Yeah, he joined in the first time because that's what she requested. She said she wanted two guys, so we was pretty much swapping out. Yeah, from the back I get swap, you know. So yeah, that's what she asked for and that's what she got. But that was only the first time. We only did that once.
So he never joined in after that?
We'll swap sometimes though. Like we'd be in the same room and like he'll hit for a little bit, and then I do my thing, but like he would only like be in and he'll be in and out quick.
Brace yourself, because everything you thought you already knew about the Diddy situation just got a significant and unexpected addition. While most people assumed this story had already delivered its biggest revelations, a name called Sly Diggler quietly walked through a door. Nobody was watching and dropped something that immediately changed the entire conversation. He isn't dealing in vague suggestions or anonymous whispers. He's attaching real female celebrity names directly to Diddy's most closely guarded. Private World, Beyonce, Young Miami, Daft Joy, Ellen DeGeneres. Names that individually command massive public attention now suddenly sharing the same sentence, the same story, and allegedly the same hidden spaces. And running underneath all of it like a current that never fully switched off. Tape rumors that went dormant rather than extinct. The force driving this particular story isn't located in any single name being mentioned. It lives in the collision between all of them happening at exactly the same time. This is what convergence looks like when it hits a story of this magnitude. Diddy provides the foundation. Beyonce gets pulled toward it almost immediately. Young Miami materializes like her presence was always inevitable. Daphne Joy enters carrying a history that instantly complicates everything further. Ellen DeGeneres surfaces in a context that genuinely surprises even people who thought they'd anticipated every direction this could travel. Sly Diggler allegedly occupies the center of all of it, claiming first-hand knowledge of who moved through those private environments and what the genuine structure of those relationships looked like from inside a world most people never accessed. These gatherings spent years wrapped in the specific kind of mythology that Hollywood generates around things it acknowledges without ever fully confirming. Elite networking to some, exclusive celebrity socializing to others. But sworn courtroom testimony and formally filed legal allegations have a particular way of dissolving mythology and replacing it with something considerably more urgent and considerably more demanding. People stopped being curious about who attended. They started requiring answers about what those events fundamentally represented. That shift handed Sly Diggler's claims an audience that was already primed, already activated, and already searching for exactly the kind of inside perspective he was allegedly providing. Old photographs got recovered. Forgotten connections got re-examined with fresh and unforgiving eyes. Buried relationships got dragged back into full daylight. And running as an almost unbroken thread through virtually every corner of that re-examination was one name that kept appearing before anyone had to deliberately go looking for it. Young Miami. Looking for it. Young Miami. Looking for it.
So how many rounds you be going?
You know.
The people don't.
You know though.
I know, but the people don't.
Okay, so
I'm
what's the answer?
asking for the people.
What's the answer? What's the answer?
Baby, let me tell y'all something. On the witch yacht. This nigga don't go to sleep. I be like, God damn. I'm gonna tell y'all something. For real. I really thought that I was gonna like make him tap out. Like I really thought he was gonna be being out no chance. This don't go to sleep. Like I be like, nigga, go to sleep. You gotta be energized, you gotta be charged up like a Tesla.
When you going off the grid with me, you gotta go to sleep for a week.
Yeah, because it's definitely giving us sleep.
I have the $1 million question right now. You ready for it? The $1 million question is, so do y'all officially go together real bad? I'm asking. I want to know.
She gonna answer that.
You not answering that?
No. I don't know what you're asking exactly. We definitely go together real bad.
Then that's what it is.
Yeah.
Then that's what it is.
She's my date for the night.
It's just a good date night.
It's like a date night.
We don't put titles on it. Everybody wants us to put a title on. We don't put titles on it. This is like my best friend in the world. One of the most beautiful people God has blessed me to meet.
Absolutely.
And I'm blessed that she's my date tonight.
Absolutely.
Can I get like a little napkin for my forehead? Damn, I'm sweating.
And maybe y'all onto something. No titles might be it.
Yeah, no
For
titles,
sure. No
no
titles
titles.
might be it. That might be.
The dynamic between Young Miami and Diddy spent years generating more sustained public examination than almost any comparable relationship in contemporary entertainment. As the legal pressure surrounding Diddy intensified steadily and the volume and specificity of public allegations made casual dismissal increasingly difficult to sustain, the speculation orbiting her simply refused to find a natural conclusion. Many of the specific claims attached to her name remain formally unresolved and contested. Yet assembling any serious and credible map of Diddy's closest circle without her name appearing near the center of it feels genuinely incomplete. Virtually anyone who has been following this story with real attention, certain moments leave marks that don't fade with time. Her decision to go completely and unreservedly all out, holding absolutely nothing in reserve to create a birthday experience for Diddy that transcended anything ordinary, is one of those moments that embedded itself permanently in collective memory.
Can somebody put this song? That's his son. Yeah. Let's go up.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Poppy.
And then, without much warning, the story pivots sharply and introduces territory that reframes everything preceding it. Where young Miami's connection to Diddy felt firmly rooted in his more recent world and more contemporary circumstances, Daphne Joy represented an entirely separate and considerably older thread woven through the same complicated and still expanding narrative. The moment people began pulling her documented connections to both Diddy and 50 Cent back into active public focus, her name spread across every significant platform with the particular velocity that only emerges when multiple distinct audiences connect with the same material at exactly the same moment. The prolonged and very public conflict between those two men had been exhaustively covered and documented. Over many years, the sustained mockery, the deliberately targeted social media campaigns, the relentless and strategically calculated mutual antagonism. Then Slago arrived with something heavier and considerably more specific than anything that had come before, advancing pointed allegations about Diddy, Joy, and the true and unvarnished nature of whatever arrangement had allegedly been maintained quietly and carefully beneath the surface of all that very visible and very extensively documented public performance.
I just saw Diddy's tape with 50's baby mom, Daphne Joy, right? And let me tell you something. First things first. Let's not disrespect the dude who was putting in work in the video. The guy's name is Sly Diggler, right? If you go across certain parts of the internet or whatever, you know what kind of work he's put in. You know what I'm saying? And what companies he put work in for. Especially companies that deal with interracial things, you know what I mean? But I'll leave it at that, right? Now, the first thing I can say that's about the video that I like, or whatever, are the colors.
She asked for, and that's what she got, but that was only the first time. We only did that once.
So he never joined in after that?
We'll swap sometimes, though. Like, we'd be in the same room, and, like, he'll hit for a little bit, and then I do my thing, but, like, he would only, like, be in, and he'll be in and out quick. Pound it real quick, and then be out. So.
Well, I guess the thing with Diddy was that he wasn't well endowed, so he was trying to give these girls something that he didn't have, but he wanted to control that, something like that. Because me and you talked about this.
So yeah, he told me I can give my girl anything in the world, but I can't give her that. Talking about my, so so yeah, it was just like, yeah, he can give her all the gifts she want, but he can't necessarily. Some guys feel intimidated by not having a big, but and he just wanna, I don't know, I think he just like to see this. I think he just like to see this, you know, like. Yeah.
Well, you actually ended up with a video of a freak off with Diddy and 50's baby mother on your phone.
Yeah, he accidentally recorded on my phone, so it stayed there.
It stayed there.
The claim in circulation alleged she received $10,000 in exchange for accompanying Diddy across 2 consecutive back-to-back trips. 9 days in Turks and Caicos followed directly by 6 days in the Bahamas, combining to produce a total of 15 continuous days. Run those numbers through basic arithmetic and examine what they actually yield. $10,000 distributed across 15 days produces a figure of approximately $750 per individual day. Presented in those specific and unadorned numerical terms, the vocabulary of vacation or spontaneous travel becomes completely inapplicable to what this arrangement actually describes. What those figures outline instead reads with unmistakable clarity as a deliberately constructed, financially negotiated agreement defined by specific terms, structured across a predetermined and agreed-upon time frame, and compensated at a precisely established and apparently non-negotiable daily rate.
Grow up, California. Chat, write these down. She from Cali. What's your level of college? Junior college, then modeling. She's a model. With whom did you have a relationship from 2021 to 2024? Sean Puff Daddy Combs.
When
At
these
first,
claims first
most
entered
people
public
brush-
circulation, most people process them with the kind of brief and distracted interest they extend to most celebrity-adjacent gossip before moving on to whatever comes next in their feed. The response changed fundamentally, and without gradual transition, the instant those same claims began appearing within the boundaries of actual legal proceedings and formal court-adjacent discussions. Every archived image of Daphne, anywhere in proximity to Diddy, got retrieved from wherever it had been residing undisturbed and subjected to a quality and intensity of scrutiny it had never previously experienced. The questions now being asked carried entirely different weight and entirely different stakes. What was the genuine and underlying nature of her presence within those specific environments beyond whatever casual surface appearance suggested? How much of what registered externally as relaxed and unremarkable proximity concealed a more deliberately engineered and more transactional foundation? Had a complete and significant dimension of this particular story been successfully and intentionally withheld from public awareness for an extended period, certain observers held firmly and consistently to the position that she was simply a woman exercising her own autonomous judgment and navigating her own chosen path through an industry with a well-documented and lengthy history of moral complexity. Others argued with equal firmness and consistency that what existed beneath the visible surface was a carefully and deliberately constructed arrangement organized around financial incentive, cultivated and strategic access, and intentional proximity to concentrated influence and power. Genuine honesty about what these two readings each capture probably requires acknowledging that both contain partial and real truth. What proved most consequential in the long run, however, was not the specific content of any individual allegation. It was the permanent and irreversible transformation those allegations collectively produced in how public perception chose to operate going forward from that point. Once a sufficient critical mass of people makes the collective decision to reinterpret an existing history through a fundamentally and qualitatively different interpretive framework, the original and more innocent reading of that history becomes permanently and completely inaccessible. Photographs that once registered as entirely unremarkable and forgettable now function as potential evidence demanding careful and repeated study. Appearances that previously felt like ordinary coincidence now read as deliberate and calculated positioning serving specific and knowable purposes. Every documented moment of connection, proximity, or shared presence becomes raw and usable material for active and sustained investigation. That permanent and irreversible shift in how people collectively chose to see and interpret things is what fundamentally and completely rewrote the public narrative surrounding Daphne Joy's position and role within this broader and still actively developing story. Then we reach the name that accomplishes something that no other name anywhere in this entire conversation manages to achieve. It changes the fundamental character and temperature of the room the precise instant it enters. Beyoncé. And this requires stating with complete and unambiguous directness, there exists no verified evidence of any description or from any source placing Beyoncé in any proximity to any wrongdoing of any kind. That is established and uncontested fact. But the internet has always operated according to its own entirely independent and self-sustaining logic, and her name has been appearing with striking and consistent regularity in discussions centering on exclusive private gatherings, entertainment industry power structures and networks, and personal accounts offered by individuals who claim direct first-hand presence at these specific events. Then someone identifying as the baby entered the conversation and aligned themselves explicitly and publicly with what Sly had already put forward, personally and specifically claiming to have been physically present and to have witnessed Beyoncé at one of Diddy's most heavily and widely discussed private gatherings with their own direct observation,
infamous gatherings.
Actions landed across every conceivable point on the response spectrum and arrived with remarkable and almost simultaneous speed. Loud and repeated expressions of complete disbelief. Dark humor spreading through comment threads with an uncomfortable and accelerating velocity. Genuine and visible alarm registering across multiple major platforms in real time. But the fundamental and underlying reason Beyoncé's name carries such singular, unique, and disproportionate gravitational force within a conversation of this specific nature becomes entirely and almost uncomfortably clear when examined, with genuine honesty and without the interference of preconception. For something approaching 3 full and uninterrupted decades she has embodied what stands as arguably the most intentionally constructed, most consistently maintained, and most comprehensively defended public identity that the modern entertainment landscape has produced or is likely to produce. Nothing about her public existence happens accidentally or without prior deliberate design and intention. Every public appearance is engineered to produce specific and calculated effects. Every statement released for public consumption is precise, measured, and carefully considered before release. Her image has been assembled component by component, reinforced continuously, and defended at every accessible angle and through every available means with a strategic thoroughness and temporal consistency that places her, essentially and genuinely without meaningful equal, among everyone else operating at remotely comparable levels of public visibility and cultural influence. So the instant her name gets drawn anywhere near territory involving secrecy, concealed private behavior, or controversy of any substantive kind, the internet's collective attention becomes immediate, absolute, and completely consuming in its totality. Because the distance between everything her carefully and painstakingly constructed public identity represents and what these specific rumors imply feels to most people almost impossible to mentally bridge or reconcile. And that apparent and jarring impossibility is the precise and identifiable mechanism that launches speculation into genuinely and sustainably viral territory with a speed and compounding force that almost nothing else in the contemporary media environment can replicate or match.
I'm sorry?
Is there one piece of art that has changed your life?
I would say my children.
Your children?
Yes.
One more time?
My children.
Oh yeah, the greatest work of art.
Jay-Z, guys, Jay-Z, I can't talk about.
I think my beautiful husband, my beautiful 3 children.
We picked on that. I found a way to let you in, but I never really had. Standing in the light. I've been a great every rule I had you breaking. It's the risk that I'm taking. I ain't never gonna show you out. Everywhere I'm looking,
What's his
Anthony Cosby, hype me up. Baby, I can see your halo. You know you're my saving grace.
Are you my cousin?
You're
my husband.
I know over your face. Baby, I can feel your halo. Pray it won't fade. Do your halo. See your
Now, I don't want to put you on the spot because I know they're probably putting the camera in your face right now, but I love me some Jay-Z.
That specific and distinctive collision between a public identity representing multiple decades of deliberately protected and consistently reinforced perfection and whispered allegations suggesting a carefully concealed and parallel private reality existing continuously beneath it, generates a quality and sustained intensity of curiosity that operates with a momentum largely independent of whether the underlying claims carry any actual or demonstrable validity. People encounter a name that has come over time to embody sustained and multi-generational cultural authority, extraordinary and wide-ranging achievement across multiple domains, and an image that has been shielded and actively defended at every accessible angle across an extraordinary and largely uninterrupted span of decades. Then they absorb suggestions that an entirely different and deliberately hidden version of that same fundamental narrative may have been running, continuously and invisibly beneath the polished and carefully managed and publicly presented surface throughout the complete entirety of that same remarkable period. The cognitive dissonance that collision produces is magnetic in ways that resist resolution through any ordinary or readily available means. And Beyoncé never travels through these conversations as an isolated or singular figure. Jay-Z materializes alongside her with a structural consistency that feels almost predetermined rather than coincidental. The moment both arrive together within the boundaries of the same active conversation, everything expands well beyond individual people and their individual choices and circumstances. It becomes a genuine and serious interrogation of how the most powerful, most carefully positioned, and most publicly visible figures in entertainment actually function and relate to one another when the cameras are absent and the public audience is not present. What they collectively and mutually know, what they jointly protect and maintain, what they share between themselves, and what invisible understandings and arrangements exist between people who genuinely and simultaneously occupy the absolute summit of an entire global industry and cultural ecosystem.
No, it's great. So tell me about your birthday party. Am I invited?
Yes. Yes, you're definitely invited. I invite you to all my parties. You just haven't seemed to show up.
No, well, is it on the East Coast?
Yes.
Well, that's why. Why don't you have one here on the West Coast? Because I work all the time.
Okay, well, maybe I have one at your house.
Where's that? Now, what time would your party start, let's say?
Like 9:30.
Really? That early?
Yeah.
I could make that.
Yeah.
But I could think of you of starting a party at like midnight. Like, what time will it go till?
That's a different type of party, though.
Uh-huh.
No, it'll go from like 9:30 to like maybe 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock. And then, we have the top 2 floors of the hotel.
Mm-hmm. And then it will carry on there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then no, I mean the after party.
Mm-hmm. No, I know about that.
And that structural and fundamentally systemic dimension represents the genuine and primary engine sustaining the momentum that drives everything, visible on the surface of this story. Because this conversation was never at its foundation constructed around celebrities as individuals, or the specific and personal choices they made within their individual lives and careers, it has always been oriented towards something considerably larger, more structural, and more systemically significant, toward developing genuine understanding of the invisible and largely unacknowledged architecture that governs how real power actually gets generated, strategically distributed, carefully protected, and selectively transferred among the people who occupy and control the highest and most consequential levels of an industry that the overwhelming majority of the global population only ever experiences and observes from the outside looking inward without full understanding. Now return deliberate focus to Ellen DeGeneres, because her name keeps finding its way back into these conversations with a regularity and persistence that warrants direct, honest, and unhurried examination rather than continued reflexive and casual dismissal. Assessed without the distorting interference of preconception or prior assumption, her recurring and consistent presence on this particular relational map isn't genuinely puzzling or resistant to straightforward explanation. Ellen hosted Diddy across multiple separate occasions on her widely watched platform across a span of several years. She spoke openly, publicly, and explicitly about attending his famous and widely referenced parties on camera and during broadcast. She occupied an established, recognized, comfortable, and mutually reinforcing position within the same overarching entertainment power infrastructure that provides the essential connective tissue linking all of these names meaningfully to one another. So when people began assembling their detailed, expansive, and increasingly elaborate relational diagrams, systematically charting celebrities, network executives, media personalities, producers, and industry power brokers against one another in active search of meaningful and revealing patterns, Ellen's position on that diagram materialized, essentially and organically on its own momentum before anyone made a fully conscious and deliberately considered decision to place her there.
Is that going to be a new thing? Are you going to try to be early?
Yes, I'm trying to be early.
Are you going to be early for my party?
Yes, I am. No.
No.
I have to arrive fashionably late.
All right. Not too late, though.
Not too late?
Not too late, please.
What time would you like me there?
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
But not too late. Because, once you get there, the party really starts.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I got you. I promise you I'm not going to let you down on this big one.
All right,
For
good.
real.
Good.
Your shoes, your feet are going to have blisters. You're going to be dancing so hard.
I can't wait.
And once
From that point, the internet simply executes the core function it has always been most fundamentally and most powerfully designed to perform, now operating without restraint and at genuinely full capacity. Every significant and recognizable name within the active conversation becomes a node within a continuously expanding and increasingly dense relational network. Every documented piece of shared history connecting any two identifiable points within that network becomes a live and actively traceable connection, worth pursuing deliberately and systematically to wherever it ultimately and inevitably leads. Every photograph or documented public appearance recovered from years or even decades of relative obscurity and public inattention becomes a potentially critical and genuinely revelatory piece of a puzzle that millions of actively and deeply engaged people are now completely and collectively convinced they stand on the immediate and imminent verge of finally and completely solving. That continuously and relentlessly compounding momentum is the precise and clearly identifiable force that has been amplifying Sly Diggler's allegations across every available platform with steadily and visibly accelerating intensity throughout the complete arc of this developing story. And observe carefully and with full attention where the actual and operative center of gravity within this conversation has genuinely and permanently relocated, because it departed from the question of whether recordings physically exist somewhere in the world a considerable amount of time ago, without significant ceremony or public announcement. What genuinely and completely consumes and defines the conversation now is the vast, consequential, and still largely unmapped territory of aftermath and permanent consequence. If those alleged recordings were to materialize into undeniable and publicly accessible reality at any identifiable point going forward, whose entire carefully and painstakingly engineered public existence begins fracturing visibly, audibly, and irreparably before the initial news cycle even completes its first full rotation through the media ecosystem. Who gets positioned before cameras and microphones and asked to provide coherent, credible, and publicly satisfying explanations for connections and relationships they invested, sustained, deliberate, and considerable effort into rendering completely and permanently invisible to any outside observation? Who discovers without warning or preparation that moments they were entirely and justifiably certain had been safely and permanently buried beneath layers of time and public inattention are suddenly the singular, exclusive, and overwhelming focus of every conversation happening everywhere and simultaneously? The recordings themselves receded from the active center of this story quietly and without fanfare or explicit acknowledgement. What they would permanently, completely, and irreversibly mean if they ever prove genuine, real, and publicly verifiable, that is the conversation that has absorbed, displaced, and ultimately consumed everything else that previously occupied that central position. Comment sections across every relevant platform have long since evolved beyond their original function and transformed into their own fully autonomous, self-sustaining, and parallel cultural phenomenon operating continuously alongside the main and developing story. One particularly attentive observer noted with striking analytical precision that Sly Diggler revealed the genuine full extent and ambition of what he was actually claiming the specific moment he casually, and without apparent hesitation, mentioned that Beyoncé and Jay-Z had been physically present at a Diddy gathering containing a total of only 13 other identifiable people within that room at that time. That granular, specific, and confidently attributed level of detail landed with unmistakable, sustained, and immediately consequential weight, and independently generated its own extended and active thread of discussion entirely separate from the broader and ongoing conversation surrounding it. Someone else directed their response at Sly in the form of a terse, direct, and entirely unambiguous instruction to go get himself comprehensively and without further delay tested for whatever might require testing. Another active participant contributed a remark specifically about the Diddy and Joy tape situation that somehow managed to navigate and occupy the genuinely uncomfortable and contested territory existing precisely at the boundary between darkly and uncomfortably funny and deeply and genuinely unsettling in a manner that appeared to land with measurably different effect and weight for each individual person who encountered and processed it. Every identifiable segment and active corner of the audience that has been following this story across its many documented developments and unexpected turns is completely and demonstrably activated at every level, thoroughly and visibly engaged throughout, and showing absolutely no meaningful or credible indication of losing interest, reducing attention, or withdrawing from active and sustained participation in the ongoing conversation. So at the end of everything presented sits the question that has proven entirely and stubbornly resistant to being put to rest or resolved by any means currently available or foreseeable. Why is all of this forcing itself with such sustained insistence into full and undeniable public visibility at this specific and particular moment in time rather than at any earlier or later point? Why are relationships that existed in apparent dormancy and public inattention for considerable and uninterrupted stretches of years now suddenly, demanding urgent, immediate, and present tense attention from everyone paying any meaningful degree of attention at all. Why are photographs that sat completely undisturbed and entirely unexamined through extended periods of accumulated time now appearing across every platform and within every active conversations simultaneously and without any apparent prior coordination or central direction? Why do these same specific, consistently recognizable, and reliably powerful names keep gravitating with such dependable and almost physically gravitational consistency toward the active center of this conversation, regardless of the direction, angle, or entry point from which anyone attempts to approach or engage with it? Some observers are firmly, vocally, and repeatedly convinced that the public has collectively reached and decisively and permanently crossed a threshold of tolerance and patience, that the capacity to accept comfortable, convenient, and self-serving silence in the precise place where genuine accountability should rightfully and necessarily exist has finally been exhausted beyond any realistic possibility of restoration or return. Others maintain with equal conviction and equal consistency that the full, complete, and unmediated truth inhabiting the active center of all of this carries a layered complexity and internal contradiction that actively defeats, fundamentally resists any single clean, satisfying, comprehensive, and publicly digestible narrative explanation. What remains entirely, unconditionally, and permanently beyond reasonable dispute for any honest and attentive observer of this situation is the simple, consistent, repeatedly demonstrated, and entirely unremarkable fact: assemble the names Beyoncé, Young Miami, Daphne Joy, Ellen DeGeneres, and Diddy within the boundaries of a single sentence, and every other conversation simultaneously competing for attention anywhere on the internet, immediately, completely, and without resistance yields. Nobody currently positioned behind any screen in any location, no commentator commanding whatever size audience or platform, no blogger executing whatever engagement optimization strategy, no voice performing whatever carefully calibrated and strategically deployed version of outrage produces the most favorable algorithmic distribution and reward, possesses genuine, direct, and first-hand knowledge of what actually and specifically took place inside those particular private rooms, during those particular private moments in time. That knowledge belongs exclusively, completely, and without any theoretical possibility of legitimate transfer to the specific individuals who were physically present and directly and personally participating in whatever occurred. But the questions that have accumulated around, beneath, and throughout this story have now reached a combined mass, velocity, and cultural momentum that no available quantity of strategic silence, deliberate misdirection, or institutional pressure can successfully absorb, meaningfully contain, or effectively neutralize going forward. Was Sly Diggler genuinely, deliberately, and courageously pulling back a curtain that had been strategically and successfully concealing something the public possessed every legitimate, reasonable, and morally grounded right to see, fully understand, and honestly reckon with? Or was he instead a strategically positioned, opportunistically motivated, and self-interestedly calculating figure who identified an already raging, already largely uncontrollable, and already extensively fueled inferno and made a cold and deliberate decision about precisely how much additional and carefully targeted fuel that particular fire remained capable of absorbing without losing the specific shape and direction he needed it to maintain? That question sits unmoved, unmovable, and essentially unanswered at the absolute center of everything that is currently unfolding in real time and everything that remains still yet to come in whatever direction this story ultimately travels. Bring the most honest, most unfiltered, most carefully considered, and most genuinely held perspective you are capable of forming directly and without reservation into the comments section right now. And if you have somehow navigated the complete length, full depth, and total complexity of everything laid out and examined here and have still not taken the single straightforward and entirely uncomplicated step of subscribing, that particular, unnecessary, and entirely self-imposed oversight needs to be identified, acknowledged, and corrected immediately and without any further hesitation or delay. 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 Hesitation or delay.